Tonight on KGW News, strong winds blow the roof off a local business and into someone's home.
It sounded like thunder, but we weren't sure, and then the building actually shook.
Plus, new tonight, questions about the band member friends say was among those arrested protesting outside the ICE building.
It does feel like, quite an escalation of force.
And in Battleground, fellow teachers are pushing back after they say one of their own could be fired for comments she never actually made.
I think they all feel that if it happened to her, it could happen to any one of us, and that's the scary part.
And amidst tears of joy in Israel, how local religious leaders feel about the momentous deal and a step toward peace.
I think there's a new path forward. I think there's a lot of hope and exuberance.
We're very hopeful, of course. We want the genocide to stop.
Good evening, everyone. At first tonight, we are tracking the latest developments in the potential deployment of National Guard troops to Portland. This evening, an appeals court appears to still be weighing whether to keep an order in place that blocks troops from hitting the streets. It is likely that ruling from the Ninth Circuit will come before the end of the week. Meanwhile, Democratic members of Oregon's congressional delegation today blasting the president over his plan to send the Guard, saying demonstrations remain largely peaceful and troops will only serve to escalate tensions. This comes a day, by the way, after about 1,000 cyclists rode through the rain, what they called an emergency world naked bike ride in protest of the president's immigration policies and his calls for troops. Let's go live now to South Portland and Alma Carty live at the ICE building. So Alma, walk us through what's happening right now, as well as the handful of arrests we saw over the weekend.
Yeah, David, well, I can tell you that from today, really things have been very, very calm out here, as reflected at this hour in front of the ICE facility. There's several dozen protesters, of course, many of them costumed like we have been seeing nightly. And just yesterday, hundreds of demonstrators came through this very spot, of course, some on bikes, others in these outfits that we've been seeing. Another group, the Unprecedented Brass Band, an activist band that's been around for more than 8 years. Now, more than 24 hours after that protest, one of the band members, a clarinet player named Oriana Carroll, is behind bars at the Clark County Jail after being arrested by federal agents. To speak against this arrest and call attention to it, dozens showed up in Vancouver this evening to march and play music outside of the jail. While it's unclear why she's held in a different state across the river, the jail confirmed to KGW that Carroll is currently booked on a Department of Homeland Security hold on the charge of assaulting a federal officer. Her fellow bandmates tell us on Sunday that she was across the street from the ICE facility peacefully playing when an officer charged in her direction and held her against a fence. What she's charged with, they say, doesn't add up.
I feel very different right now. Not so much like scared, definitely a little traumatized, but more like it feels like the rules have changed, right? So before yesterday, we've been doing this for a very long time. Unprecedented Brass Band has been out for 8.5 years or so now. And we've seen a lot of these things happen, right? But never like this.
And we reached out to the Department of Homeland Security for details on Carroll's arrest, though they haven't responded to her specific case. A spokesperson said 3 people were arrested Sunday for assaulting law enforcement, including biting, kicking, and spitting at officers. DHS characterized the protesters as rioters and Antifa domestic terrorists. Now, the band's hoping for their bandmates' release as soon as tomorrow, and they will continue their form of protest, which they have described as lighthearted, joyous, and a little bit absurd. David, back to you.
Yeah, costumed protesters on the ground there, federal agents on the roof. It seems like status quo in South Portland. Appreciated, Alma, there. And speaking of the waterfront, for people living in the area, helicopter noise seems to have lingered. The City of Portland's Noise Control Office confirming it's received 174 noise complaints, all about choppers, and that's just since September 27th. We continue to get calls from neighbors and checked in with some of them who call it inescapable.
If you're running those things between 7 and 3 a.m. consistently on weekends, I started tracking it just for my own amusement. It's a little annoying. And again, I'm fairly protected from the noise because of the buildings around me. So it's worse out here on these sides.
Well, it's still not clear if there are multiple helicopters or just one. The Port of Portland has indicated they are federally operated, and the FBI said a few weeks ago a U.S. Customs and Border Protection chopper over Portland had a laser pointed at it. Meanwhile, a city spokesperson says it has zero regulatory authority over aircraft noise, saying that is regulated by the FAA. To Wilsonville now, where ICE agents responded parked on campus today near a middle school. The district says school staff spoke with the agents outside Wood Middle School, who confirmed, yes, they were ICE and were conducting surveillance of the general area. Those are the agents' words. Staff then asked the agents to leave, and they did so. In a statement, Homeland Security told KGW ICE is not targeting schools, and though agents are technically allowed to take action at schools, that has not happened. It would be an extremely rare case. We'll stay with KGW for continuing coverage here as we await a ruling from the Ninth Circuit and keep a close eye on developments across the Portland Metro. Look for the latest anytime on KGW.com, on our mobile app, and on our free TV app, KGW+. Well, sticking with politics and policy for a moment here, some Northwest airports, including PDX and SeaTac, are refusing to play a new Homeland Security video featuring Secretary Kristi Noem. That is because the message meant to air on TSA screens across the country includes a line blaming Democrats in Congress for the ongoing government shutdown. The airports are not running it, they say, due to its political nature. Airports say they're focused on supporting federal workers during the shutdown and urging lawmakers to reach an agreement. Okay, let's take you outside on this Monday night, and after a bit of a wild weather weekend, including some powerful winds, we'll talk about that. We're looking at what could be a bit of a chilly night with a frost advisory, even a frost warning now up in certain spots. Celine Stevens is in for Matt with your first forecast. Celine, talk about the change of seasons here, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, does feel like fall. You know, as we get into the next couple of days, we are going to get a break from the rain, so that's good news. But like you said, David, it is getting chilly, that's for sure. Right now, temperatures in the mid-50s at the moment here at the Rose City. Now, looking at those watches and warnings, we do have a couple things to look out for. We have that freeze warning actually off to the east that's going to be impacting the upper Hood River Valley and other areas in Washington too, like Centerville and Goldendale. We could see temperatures sub-freezing overnight. This goes into effect at midnight, and then we're going to be seeing temperatures again around 28 degrees. Then once we get to early Wednesday or late Tuesday into early Wednesday morning, we're going to see it turn into a freeze watch. So we are looking at cold temperatures in that region for the next couple of days. Then we're dealing with that frost advisory for areas like Hillsborough, Beaverton, Vancouver, Longview, and even down south near the Eugene area and Sweet Home, seeing temperatures in the mid to upper 30s, so getting as low as 33 degrees. So opportunities for frost there, definitely a few chilly nights. Portland not included in any of those alerts. But right now, temperatures in the 50s, 54 here, 48 in Troutdale, along the coast, more 40s. And temperatures today warming compared to what we saw over the weekend. We're going to see that trend continue for about 1 or 2 more days, and then the rain will be coming back. We'll break it down a little bit later.
Thanks, Celine. Appreciate it. New at 11, teachers in Battleground stood up tonight for one of their own after they say the district fired her over a text sent by a student, one that later turned out to be false. Catherine Cook has the story.
We are not safe as teachers. If someone tells a lie about us and goes online and character assassinates us.
A united front at the Battleground School Board meeting Monday. Educators wearing red asked the board to reinstate Battleground High School social studies teacher Amanda Gonzalez.
It has affected her physical and mental health.
The teachers union claims the school board moved to terminate Gonzalez last month. This after a student text message surfaced in which the student told his mom that Gonzalez called the late Charlie Kirk a Nazi during class. A claim that student later recanted to district officials, according to the Battleground Education Association.
The first student who sent the text to his mom, and that's what everyone saw, told the district that she did not, in fact, make that statement. His friend who was standing next to him also said that he did not hear Amanda make the statement.
We reached out to the Battleground School District about the case. In a statement, a spokesperson told us Ms. Gonzalez is on administrative leave until further notice. As this is a personnel matter, we are unable to provide further information. Union President Mary Mendoza Hansel countered that, claiming the school board asked Gonzalez to either accept termination or resign. She said Gonzalez is fighting for a third option, an administrative hearing, a frightening prospect for educators.
They all feel that if it happened to her, it could happen to any one of us, and that's the scary part. that we have to almost fight for our jobs and then fight for our safety.
Parents at the meeting said Gonzalez's case and how the district is handling it frustrates them.
Our district just seems to be acquiescing to these demands without following any kind of due process.
After public comment, the superintendent offered a brief response to concerns over Gonzalez's case.
There is a lot of mis or incomplete information that's circulating, but because it's ongoing and because it's a legal matter regarding a personnel, we really can't speak to it. We need to wait for the process to play fully out.
Gonzalez was not at the board meeting, and the union says her attorney has suggested she not make a public statement at this time, but she appreciates everyone who's shown their support. In Battleground, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
Let's get you caught up on tonight's other local headlines now, starting with a major break in the case of a young Portland mother stabbed to death 2 years ago. Police have now arrested a suspect in Montana for the death of 22-year-old Tiara Atencio. Authorities have identified him as Connor J. O'Brien and say he is currently awaiting extradition. Portland police are investigating the death of a woman found shot to death inside her car over the weekend. Today, they identified her as 39-year-old Crystal Pendergraph. Officers say they were called for a welfare check at Northwest Kearney and 22nd just after 5 Saturday evening. That is when they found Pendergraph. Police are asking anyone with information to please reach out. And starting tomorrow morning, around 4,000 Kaiser Permanente nurses and healthcare workers in the Portland Metro are set to hit the picket lines. The strike, which is over wages and working conditions, is set to last 5 days. Kaiser says it has bargained in good faith and has brought in thousands of workers to backfill those who are striking. All medical centers will remain open, it says, though some appointments may be switched to virtual care or need to be rescheduled. Well, cheers and tears of joy today as families reunited with the 20 surviving hostages kidnapped by Hamas in Israel just over 2 years ago. It's part of the first phase of a momentous ceasefire deal, with Israel in turn releasing about 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. President Trump, as well as leaders from Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar, signed a document, the president said, that spelled out rules and regulations. And while the details were not made public, President Trump called for a new era of harmony.
This is the day that people across the region and around the world have been working, striving, hoping, and praying for. They have done things over the last month that I think were really unthinkable. Nobody thought this could happen. With the historic agreement we've just signed.
And this is just the first step, with questions about how the rebuilding will begin, who will govern Gaza, and whether the Palestinians will eventually have their own state. Well, here in the Northwest, folks are watching today's events very closely. Some are family or friends of hostages. Others know people who've been displaced or killed in Gaza. We checked in with a couple of local faith leaders about this fragile peace agreement that's now in place.
I think there's a new path forward. I think there's a lot of hope and exuberance based on what happened. But I'm sure there's a lot of consternation. There's healing that has to take place for the hostages and their families. The country as a whole has to heal.
Well, we're very hopeful, of course. I mean, we want the genocide to stop.
Well, two perspectives of many there on day one of what is likely to be a long journey ahead.